Hello there, and welcome back to the HYPEBEAST show with your host, Agostinho and this is episode number 655. That is 655 of the HYPEBEAST show. I hope you are doing well wherever this podcast may find you. I hope you are doing splendid. How am I? All good, all things considered. One cannot complain. One cannot complain. As per usual with this is mostly going to be my cultural commentary podcast. If you're looking for the random show and anything regarding comedy news and whatnot, please check back later. There'll be a stream later on tonight. I think I've already got that scheduled on my channel, so if you haven't already checked it, make sure you do. That'll be episode number 88 of the random show coming up. So if you want to see everything concerning Brendan Shaw, Brian Callen, Joe Rogan, Bert Kreischer, my Bert Kreischer special review, definitely check out the random show episode number 88. That should already be scheduled on my channel if you want to go check that out. But for now, this will be your one and only one-stop shop for all the cultural commentary news that you need in your sector. So don't delay, get on that today. So, how have I been going? All things all considered, I'm nice and hydrated. I've got this nice little cold brew that I've mixed with a dash of vanilla milk inside. I don't usually do that, but I just wanted to kind of get it down my esophagus nice and smoothly. So, of course, we're going to oblige with a nice pre-pod sip. And it's hitting just the way that I thought it would hit. Hitting just the way I thought it would hit. So, in the last few days, I've been on my Lindsay Lohan sort of sobriety sort of vibe, which has been kind of nice. It's also afforded me the opportunity and the luxury to go outdoors and be in the gym and go for runs and stuff early in the morning, which has been quite nice considering that usually I used to do it quite late in the afternoon, late in the evening and whatnot, and it's a bit, messes up your overall body clock. But it has been quite nice to get out in the morning and kind of see my my locale when it's somewhat daylight, because I tend to only see at night because sometimes I do have vampire hours as my day-to-day schedule. One thing I noticed though, which is interesting, of course, all areas are like this, but because I live in a fairly rough part of town and it sometimes have very sketchy individuals walking around, you hear very sketchy noises everywhere. It's a little bit, it's a little bit dodge. But one thing I noticed is that when you wake up early, the thing that you do see that's the best is that you actually see the best parts of your little locale. Like, it actually looks somewhat beautiful, somewhat serene. There's a picture here I took on my way to the gym that kind of gives me, I don't know, it kind of gives me life. It kind of looks like something gorge, when in actuality the area that it is pretty rough, but there's something serene, something quite peaceful about it. And the funny thing is, this route that I walk, or to my gym, actually, the hilarious part about it is that this little section that I've taken a picture of, if you can't see it, there's a little section just in front of a road that kind of leads into some houses and whatnot. The funny thing is, this whole entire area, this whole entire part, if I'm not mistaken, usually this whole entire section is a little weird place where all the kind of local druggies and whatnot come and sit down and sort of do their little beer sessions, their other gear sessions. All kind of happens in this little section right here. That's where it all kind of goes down. It's very, 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 very strange why that is the case, but it's kind of like, on the way to you to improve yourself and all that good self-improvement talk and blah, blah, blah. This is also the place where all the local crackheads decide to congregate and have their kind of weekly meeting or whatever they have to do. It's kind of hilarious to me, to be honest, but I did kind of like how peaceful it looks on the way there. So, nice little Ryanair or Stansted, or also with Ryanair, EasyJet Stansted flight passing over the top of me, feeling quite serene, feeling kind of good. And yeah, it was nice just to kind of go out and kind of see the overall town in the morning before I do see it at night as per usual. So I did really, really, really enjoy that. Oh my god, why is it saying to me is it dropping frames? It's saying to you overloading. What's good? I go, yes, what's good, Hans fuck hack. Hold on, let me check out my thing. Am I buffering a lot? It says I'm buffering a lot here. Let me see, double check on my phone here. Encoding overload. Okay, it's dropped now, so it should be back to normal. Oh, for goodness sake, really? Do I have to kind of close some windows and start this again? Maybe I do. Encoding overload. I keep saying encoding overload, but it looks okay. Let me see if I can maybe close some windows. Maybe that will help. There, with me a second. Let me see if I can close some windows before. Maybe this is the reason why it's going crazy. Maybe get rid of this. Whoops. Yeah, maybe get rid of that. Let's see if that works. Hopefully that works. Oh, it's still saying encoding overload. Bear with me a second as I check this. Oh yeah, I can't do this. Can I check this after? Yeah, I can after. Okay, after the fact. So let me lower it down to 3,000. Maybe that's what it needs to do. Or maybe do it 2,000. Let's see if that works. Apply. Okay. Come on, brother. I didn't change anything else, did I? Bitrate wise. Let's see if this works. Bear with me a second because I need just to make sure this stops buffering because it keeps telling me encoding overload. And I don't know why it keeps saying overloaded because everything should be back where it should be. Yes, I could get rid of Brendan. Yeah, I got rid. Don't worry, I got rid. Let's see if this works. Hopefully this works now. Okay, it should be back to normal now. Hopefully it's back to normal. Fingers crossed it's back to normal. But anyway, cool. So moving on from that one, quickly want to mention this because I thought this was crazy, right? You're in the Matrix. How about now? I shouldn't be in the Matrix. I think I should be nice out of the Matrix now. But I just saw this and I thought this was pretty hilarious and also pretty sad and bittersweet. So this picture of this young lady, Amelia, how do you say her name? Amelia De Moldenberg. She sounds like she's from some, high society family or something, innit, right? Anyway, Amelia De Moldenberg, right? This lady is amazing, right? So this picture of her's gone viral somewhat in my side of Twitter, which you'd call maybe the UK Black Twitter, Blick Twitter side of things. She might be calling him Blick after this anyway. But the funny thing about this is that, number one, the picture of this young lady is fantastic. And if you don't know her, she is the host of a show here in the UK called The Chicken Shop, which is essentially our version of of an urban show where you interview artists and stuff, but they do it inside of a chicken shop. And for whatever reason, she's the host of it, which is weird because chicken shops are like usually in really struggle areas, places that we would call the hood or ends or whatever it may be called. But regardless, the show does really well. It's very popular. She got invited to the Oscars after party, if I'm not mistaken. This looks like the Vanity Fair one, so that's not even the Oscars actual event, but it's an after party. But it's still, it's a prestigious thing to go to. Not everyone gets the invite. Obviously I didn't get invited, so the fact that she went is amazing. And also, let's be fair, she looks flipping amazing in this dress. Like, she looks fantastic. And I've seen a couple pictures of her on red carpet and she just looks, she looks a little bit awkward in what she's wearing and whatnot, not very comfortable in the skin. But I feel like this has been the most comfortable I've seen. And again, she's still not moving, that might help, but I think overall she looks really, really good. The dress works well, the face is on banging, the makeup's done well, the hair is always needs to be, the skin is glistening, nails are all done brilliantly, even though she's got that kind of weird summer walker pose with her arms on her side, she still looks fucking fantastic. Now the issue with this is that I guess this picture has reminded people that she exists, because I think people maybe just conveniently forgot that she exists for some reason, and it really stirred up a lot of ill feelings around some people in Black Twitter who think she's only got her position or only got invited because she's like a friendly, somewhat easy to an easy face to kind of look at, because she's white and she's not black, and she does this show where she interviews loads of urban acts, and some of the quote tweets are really amazing and really, really mean. So obviously, naturally, because this is a podcast, it's best to go through some of them and read what some of these people have to say regarding Amelia's representation over there at the Oscars. And she says, I thought the Queen of England was dead. She's right here, yo. Obviously people are trolling. Another one says she doesn't even do anything and black people still find a way to hate on her, weirdos. Another person here says she's so sweet, man, how does she get any hate? Another one says insufferable women fuming in the QTs, quote tweet, sorry, if that degenerate Aloni was there, they'd be yes queening us to death, mate. Another one, ugly women in the quotes, hating her, I love her, she's gone clear. A lot of boys are fans, looks like. The girls aren't really rating her for some reason. I'm all for bullying white women, but this lady is literally unproblematic. Leave my babe alone. UK royalty. She looks so pretty. I didn't know people hated her. Low key a UK goat. I'm a save Amelia for the Americans. The way you guys force yourself to hate random white people is so weird. It just shows how stupid people are. Another one says all the hate that she gets from jealous people that haven't done anything meaningful in their lives. Another one says the sudden hate towards her is very weird and fake as well, because everyone has loved off Chicken Shop Date for years, but now that she's moving up, you don't want to see her win. I don't think this is true, and maybe this is part to kind of rest on. I've always thought the premise around the shop to be a little bit dumb, because in general, like I said, chicken shops in the UK are generally located in very poor, low income areas. This, the kind of areas where you'd find loads of, betting shops. You're gonna find loads of really crappy chicken shops that sell flipping 6 wings and a drink and maybe a hand job for flipping £1. And usually, for most places, unless your chicken shop is in Notting Hill or something, you don't ever see girls that look like Amelia in these chicken shops, especially not like shiny white girls. You might see dusty type of white girls, the kind of ones that you see that have like a side part in, or that braid half of their hair, or talk in a certain way, or pull their hair back and have that kind of facelift ponytail. Those kind of white girls, they exist. But like, well-to-do, wholesome, sweet white women like Amelia don't really, hang around chicken shops unless, the chicken shops is in Shoreditch, or it's in Hoxton, or it's in Brixton, somewhere trendy like that. But for the most part, you don't really see them there, like, willingly going there to eat. It's not really something they're going to go do. They'd much rather go to like Chicken Sour somewhere and go buy, overpriced fried chicken made by some white dude who stole the recipe for some black woman in the South. But we continue. So I always thought the premise of the show was really corny and didn't really make any sense. If anything, it'd make more sense if she did a show in like out of some coffee shop somewhere, in some boutique somewhere. That would make more sense in that way, and you could still get the funny sort of awkward white girl interviewing hood guy type of dynamic, but in a setting that makes sense to her. I just thought her, sitting on a rickety, steel chair with leather seats that got cracks in it in a chicken shop somewhere, telling the boss man if she's got more ketchup. I just found that a little bit weird and a little bit strange, but for every reason it resonated with people. And I'm a big believer in, as much as I don't like something, I'm still a believer in the fans and the audience being the overall sort of like deciding factor in what is good and what isn't good. So if the fans decide it's good and they keep watching it, clearly they do, because I guess only keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The last one I saw, I don't watch any of them, but last one I saw as in a clip and a picture was her interviewing Burna Boy one time. So clearly the show's going from strength to strength to strength and elevating, and naturally, because she's a host of the show, her profile is also elevating. So this look that she's getting going to the Oscars party is somewhat makes a lot of sense because of who she is and what the show is doing. But this lady saying the sudden hate, it's not sudden hate. I've always thought the show was shit personally, and I know people have had their reservations around it, and there does need to have some conversation need to be had about, if this was a blackface, would it be as easy for them to ascend the rungs of flipping celebrity and success here in the UK? Not really. Maybe because of the niche that she's in, being an awkward, white girl that's not from ends, interviewing guys that are from ends, or girls, might be the whole point of why she's successful. Cool, I understand that. But let's also understand that it will be quite nice if that whole idea of the chicken shop thing, especially when you think of the kid that used to do chicken shop reviews, if there was something, especially if these are things that are like our weird cultural hubs, again, it's sad to say this, but if they're like our meeting points in the ends, it'd just be nice to have somebody that's from ends representing those things, even though we don't own them and they're mostly owned by Asian people and stuff. But hey, we're not going to talk about that sort of stuff. It would be nice to get that, but I do understand the hate. I really do. Against her, and again, from the clips I've seen, it doesn't look that entertaining. I don't find it funny. I think it's not congruent to who she is, and there's a lot of kind of, there's that thing I think a lot of people do where, especially on the show, it's sort of similar to like Caribbean or like African restaurants here in the UK. If you're a black person and you walk into one, especially a hair salon or like a hair beauty shop, you're usually going to get a little bit of a cold shoulder from the owners. But the moment a white person walks in, someone that's just not black, all of a sudden they're like, oh, how are you? How can I help you? You know what I mean? They're doing all this really horrible pandering and kind of sucking up and somewhat bootlicking to the non-black person to kind of get them on board, which is horrible. And you kind of see that kind of dynamic play out sometimes on a chicken shop because she's kind of safe, and you're not going to get any toxic shade borough type of questions from her. So I understand both sides of it, but what I feel bad about for the whole thing, like I said before, is that this legitimately might be her best picture ever she's taken in the history of her media career, and it's now being permanently placed alongside this weird racial discourse that's maybe tinged and tinted and sprinkled a little bit of jealousy. Do you know what I mean? So it must be so bittersweet. This picture's gone viral. Many people have seen it, but it's also been the basis of people kind of questioning your place in culture and saying you only got there because you're white, which must hurt, because essentially this is what her PR team have been hired to do. Her team that she hires and that she gives 10% to and maybe more to put her out there is doing what they should be doing and getting her in the right places and making her move in the right spaces so that it can progress and go. So don't be surprised if this kind of elevates and she's suddenly now doing chicken shops and flipping American stuff and going to Popeyes or whatnot over there. Another one said, "This baby, this." Again, notice all the guys are the ones backing her. I guess guys really fancy her. Then, this baby ain't the issue for or the villain. Most of you make her out to be. Yes, the industry is fucked, but how many black people supporting and pushing ZZ, Zumi, and Chucky's content? There's quite a few, to be fair. I don't know what he's getting at there. Quite a few are pushing it, but it doesn't really matter, innit? You're not going to get any of those people having a show on Channel 4 or going to the Oscars anytime soon. So happy for her success. Maybe she'll be feeding you guys. This person is raw. So happy for her success. Maybe she'll be feeding you guys watermelon so you can propel her to host the Oscars. Oh, this is horrible. It continues here. The hate she gets is very weird. And then the last one here, my wife. So it does kind of, switch from person to person in terms of what the hate is, but I still do think it's a little bit out of order, a little bit extreme, and people do need to chill out and give her time to breathe, because she did not ask for this. You know what I mean? It's the position that she's in. Her team are doing their job. It is what it is. It is what it is. Someone asked me in the chat, do you think she dates blacks? I don't really, to be fair, you know what, right? I don't want her to. Let me say that. I want her to lean into her whiteness, like, because I know she's got a thing for that guy. She keeps she's got a thing for that guy that was Spider-Man, innit? I forgot his name, the white actor. I forgot his name, but she's got a thing for him. I prefer it if you just like double down on her whiteness. Like, don't try and pretend to be into the, like, just like, the reason why she's successful is because she's the awkward white girl. Just be the awkward white girl. Don't suddenly be the awkward white girl that's always into Tyrones and Jermaines and stuff. Stick to your Toms. Stick to your James, your Henrys and that, and live that kind of life and you'll be good. I think if she tries to pander, I think it's going to go crazy for her personally. I don't want to see her dating Skepta anytime soon. Please, God. Just stick to the Caucasians and you'll win. She's already winning that anyway, so clearly that model kind of works. But anyway, talking about models and talking about stuff that works and doesn't work, oh my God. So, my favorite brand, Balenciaga, obviously put out a really cool collection recently for fall winter 2013. Fall winter 2023, sorry, which I obviously loved and had a lot of time for. And there were two things for me in the collection that stuck out that I was really, really down for and really wanted to cop somewhere down the line. Number one being these biker boots. They're essentially kind of a rip or like a bit of a progression on the evolution of these boots that they did in 2017, which were kind of popular. They were more like of a motocross type of boot. They had more of a sturdier sole and they weren't maybe as light looking and they weren't so distressed, but they're somewhat of a grail to me. And obviously this is an update, and I think they come in like 4 or 5 colors. And then the other thing I saw that I thought was really good from that collection were these combat pants, and they were like a flared combat. And I think in general, Balenciaga do a really good job of putting together really good combats. I think they got a couple from past seasons that have been really popular. Obviously Kanye has been wearing a lot of them in recent years and making them kind of really, really popular and whatnot. But I do like the overall shape. I just love the pocket placement. And if you know anything about combat or cargo pants, you'll know that to get the perfect ones is kind of hard. Like once you get into them, it's kind of like caps or hoodies or t-shirts. Once you like a particular fit, it's really difficult to find that fit done a lot because people basically change the shapes or the cut of something, and then it's kind of hard to figure out where to kind of get that thing. So sometimes it's nice when a brand like Balenciaga keeps repeating a certain shape or a certain model of cargos, because you can buy them season in, season out, or stock up on a few. So those are the two highlights of the things I liked, right? Well, the price list for this season or next season is kind of leaked online, and people are going insane about it on social because the prices are absolutely wild. And this is courtesy of an account called MyFestWeno. That's, I think you should follow because it kind of posts loads of stuff regarding Balenciaga and whatnot. And if you want to get updates on stuff and pictures of showroom materials and whatnot, you can check them out. But they leaked the price list for the upcoming season, and the biker boots that I want, these biker boots, right? It's absolutely preposterous. But these biker boots that I want are $7,000, $7,200 retail, $7,200 retail. The Fled cargos I'm interested in, right? The ones I just showed you right here, these Fled cargos, they are $2,400, nearly $3K for a pair of cargos. And let's not even start talking about the inflatable racing jacket, which is exactly what it describes. It's a racing jacket made out of leather that also can be pumped up. There's an inflatable hoodie, the same inflatable puffer. There's a metallic Speed Cat sunglasses, which are, if I'm not mistaken, they're kind of they look like they're one piece, so you can't fold them. There's a black Speed Cat sunglasses, 2,550. Round shoulders fitted tracksuit jacket, 3,050. A double front jeans, 2,450. And deconstructed denim jacket, 3,550. Like, can you imagine how crazy those prices are? Legit. And it made me think, to be honest. I was thinking to myself, you know what? I wonder if this is like an inflection point, because I remember seeing a clip of somebody from Microsoft or somebody from BlackBerry when the iPhone originally launched saying, "Oh, we're not worried. The iPhone is not going to be that successful. It doesn't have a keyboard, and plus it's $500. No one's going to pay $500 for a phone." And that was when the first iPhone come out, right? The first generation. And obviously that kind of set a precedent for phones going forward, because it was the first one to kind of hit that barrier, to hit that kind of level, and everyone it became the new normal. So I wonder going forward if this is what Balenciaga is doing, because in general, designer shoes or sneakers or boots and stuff are usually anywhere between $500 to maybe 2,000 at the max, right? So maybe some Andy Mustas, some Big Boy Ricks, about 500 to 2,000, but they've never gone above that. So now maybe they're setting a precedent for the new normal going forward, where we're going to be getting designer shoes from like 5K up, because $7,000 to spend on biker boots, again, just forget their biker boots, just imagine they're any shoe, designer shoe, is legitimately insane. But it might be the new normal, because I feel like even though there's a lot of outrage, as you can see here from the Instagram account, there's like over 300 comments of people basically raging and saying this is really unacceptable, especially in the economy that we're in at the moment, and given the finances everyone has and whatnot. This is pretty crazy. But I have a feeling that over time people are going to learn to accept it. And also, the unfortunate truth about it is that the people that actually buy Balenciaga all the time, every season, and just hand over their Amex card or their black card or whatnot, or a suitcase full of money to a sales assistant, they don't care about this stuff. Right? They just look at what they want, they circle it, they send it to their rep, and they get it sent to their home, or they pick it up later on. They're not really too bothered about the prices of things, because if you can spend 1,000, what's 7,000? Do you know what I mean? So they obviously can afford it. So I think overall they're probably going to weather this backlash. They're not going to address it, obviously, and then they're going to just set this to be the new normal going forward. But some of the comments here are pretty interesting regarding some of the previous prices. You got one here from a real aficionado of Balenciaga and Demna and Vetements in general, Mike the Ruler, the legend. He said, for winter 20, less than 3 years ago, the baggy cargo pants with the same cotton ripstop fabrication, same pocket construction and finishing were 1,350. So the same pants, he's saying, from 3 years ago were 1,350, and now the same cargos are 2,000, so nearly a double price increase. The Tyrex biker boots were 1,490, so they've gone up by like what, 6 times or something, 6 or 7 times, which is absolutely crazy. I'm not too sure if this is to account for the rising costs of energy and transportation and all that malarkey. I don't really know, but it also could be another really weird theory, is that whole entire time they've been cancelled, quote unquote Balenciaga, they've kind of missed out on a lot of sales. People were burning some of their flipping sock racer things, burning all their fake triple S's, right? People were doing all that sort of nonsense. They were protesting outside of stores. They were calling people pedos if they're walking inside a Balenciaga store. So maybe they lost a lot of money in that whole entire period. So now they're trying to get it back by raising the prices and making people pay $7,000 for flipping, biker boots that aren't really biker boots. It continues. Another person says, time to move on to Philip Fleeing, which is hilarious. Another one says, also get your money up. This is what happened. Actually, I remember this is what happened when Visvim was popping up. When Visvim was popping up, this is what happened. Visvim went from like being a brand that was like, I don't know, within like the 1,000 range, and then it went up and kind of doubled that over time, and people just had to kind of acquiesce and kind of get used to it. Another one says, I've looked into making air mattresses before and it was super expensive with low MOQ, so I can imagine it's super expensive to produce inflatable pieces. But the sunglasses, exactly. Another one says, sometimes it's okay not to be able to afford something. Obviously I want Balenciaga, but it doesn't mean I'm going to have to write to afford it. What? What's this person talking about? This is proper bootlicking comment. It's the same thing with Chrome Hearts, for example. It's meant for a certain crowd. Doesn't mean the prices aren't poo-poo though. Yeah, that's some bootlicking talk. Another person says, they're alienating their own audience after we supported them during the controversy. Time to go back to Vetements, LOL. Or Vetements isn't that cheap either. The funny thing about this, I think as well, which is kind of cruel and also the reality of life, is that if you think about it, the actual people that make designer brands cool, trendy, somewhat culturally relevant are people who technically can't afford it. If you think about it, they're the ones who technically can't afford it, are the ones who make it popular. But then the brands don't really cater to them. They cater to an affluent group of people who in general only buy it because it's cool and trendy and don't have any real, there's no real attachment to the brand, like the ones who essentially can't afford it because they really live that life. But the ones that can really afford it just treat it as like anything. They treat it like as their version of Hanes, right? It's not that big of a deal for them anymore. It's just a status symbol that they can add to themselves to kind of give themselves to prop themselves up in somewhat, but it's not really anything deeper than that, which is kind of hilarious if you think about it. Another person says here, the funny part is that the only group of people who can really afford these prices are actually receiving for free. This is also true, right? You get a lot of influencers getting stuff for free or getting stuff heavily discounted, which is hilarious. They're not paying full prices, not the money not going to them. Another person here says, I love and appreciate the product, but there is a limit to how much work I need to put in to buy clothing. Exactly. How many jobs are you meant to get to buy it? He says, I know it's expensive and I believe that I'm not the clientele they're looking for after all, and for me the elitism is not so exciting. I thrive shipping limited edition or limited selection because it's unreasonable. That said, there are millions of millionaires out there for sure, not the image I want to follow either. Exactly. So you want to buy Balenciaga, but then you also have to earn a certain amount, but then if you earn a certain amount, you're going to be looking like certain people that wear it, and you don't want to look like those people that wear it. You're in a weird position. Another one says they're gatekeeping their own brand with these prices. Yeah, and that also might be what they're doing. It also might be a hard reset. Do you know, like when that guy from because I always thought it was obviously a purposeful done. I always thought, sorry, it was done on purpose. When that time, if you remember, when I think Jay-Z was trying to, what brand was it? It was some sort of liquor brand. I forgot what brand it was especially, but the same goes for Hennessy. But when Hennessy was the flavor of the month with people in the hip hop community, and they were shouting it out, and then they were trying to get promos and get deals with Hennessy to promote it, because obviously they were helping to promote the brand by mentioning it in raps all the time. Someone from Hennessy basically came out and said, we don't want to cater to you blacks. We don't like you black people. We're not really for this. We want to cater to a certain demographic. We want to, it's not for you. And that obviously inadvertently led to black people kind of boycotting the brand. And I think that also led to Jay-Z starting his own thing with Ace of Spades. But it was like a purposeful sort of like, they kind of like, they self-inflicted. They did it to themselves just so they could temporarily get rid of the customers they don't want and then recover on the back end. So maybe this is what Balenciaga are doing. They don't want a certain customer, or they want the people that are only going to ride for them for real. And what better way to test people's dedication and commitment to your brand than by raising the prices, That might be the way to do it. You raise the prices, you get rid of all the poors, all the blacks, all the browns, all the other minorities, right? And then you just kind of, attract a certain group of people that you actually want. And maybe it's just based on wallets, maybe it's not based on race. I don't know. But I just think it's flipping wild that these motherfuckers are charging 7 grand for biker boots. 7,000. Don't get me wrong. They're flipping nice boots, right? Really nice boots, but 7,000 is flipping crazy. This is obviously the best colorway here, that little white and yellow one. And I think these are the glasses that are like 3 grand and they're 4 grand. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? So whenever these do pop up on AliExpress, don't know I'm gonna get a pair. They're obviously not gonna be good quality, but when these glasses do end up on AliExpress, I'm jumping on them straight away because ain't nobody paying 4 grand for flipping sunglasses, man. They must think I'm smoking that good budge. No way, no way, shape in hell. Continuing on from here, I quickly wanted to mention this because I thought this was good. So, as I mentioned before, I think Don C had this really cool interview with GQ Sports talking about his recent new job that he got hired, being the Mitchell and Ness creative director, which I think is really, really amazing considering what he does with his brand, Just Don and whatnot. And he had a very interesting comment here to make about Pharrell being recently appointed Louis Vuitton menswear director, which I thought was really interesting because he seems to have a lot more faith in Pharrell's ability to produce a really good collection for Louis Vuitton men's, despite my reservations that the best things he's done have been small collaborations or capsule collections, and some of the best stuff that was done under the banner of Billionaire Boys Club wasn't done by him. It was done by Nigo and Flipping Skate Thing because they were the ones that kind of helped to sort of spearhead it early on. So I'm going to quickly scroll down here and see if I can find it. Bear with me a second here. Where's, there we go. Yes, so here. Virgil's, but yes, where is it? Is it Pharrell? So let me see here. Where's Pharrell? He mentioned it somewhere here. Let me see it. It's good. Did you say it here? Or am I bugging out? I'm sure he mentioned it here. Let me see if I can find it. Where is it? Hold on, let me see. Maybe am I mistaken or I didn't see it here? I'm sure I saw it here. He spoke about Pharrell. I'm sure I read it here recently. Or did they remove the or did they remove the flipping question? Let me see here. They removed the question. Come on, son. I'm sure I saw it. Maybe they removed it. Did they remove it? Huh. Oh no, it was on a complex interview, wasn't it? It wasn't this. Damn it, it was on a complex interview. Let me just get that up. I think it was a complex interview, I'm pretty sure. Was it Don C Complex? Maybe that's what it was. Let me see if it was on there. Was it on there? I think it was on a complex interview. Where is it? Don C Complex. Mitchell, is it Mitchell Ness, right? Mitchell Ness. Let's see if it is it. Let's see. I think it was this one. I'm just going to double check this before I load it up because I think I might have messed it up and got the wrong one, but I'm sure it was here. Where is it? Damn, son. Or maybe I didn't. Don't see interview. Let me see if I can get it up on here. It's not GQ. It's not that one. Okay. I have no idea. Maybe I got it completely mixed up. Pharrell. Let's see, Louis Vuitton. Maybe I dreamed it. Did I dream it? Maybe I dreamed it. I don't know. Maybe I dreamed it. Yeah, I might have dreamed it. Okay, cool. I might have dreamed it then. Fuck it. Regardless, doesn't matter. I probably dreamed it in an alternate reality somewhere. It did not happen the way I thought it did happen. So anyway, let's continue. So there's been some rather distressing news regarding somebody that I look up to and thought was really amazing. I still think he's amazing when it comes to art, when it comes to creating cool products, when it comes to design ethos and whatnot, and that is the great and the legendary Tom Sachs. And there's this really kind of interesting expose regarding him and his working culture that he has going on there over at his studio, that I thought was really interesting to read and to kind of go through with you guys on here. So this is the article here, courtesy of Curb. It says Tom Sachs promised a fun cult. The sculptor likes to call his studio part of his art practice. Working there could often be scary. The inventor of 10 bullets might actually put a bullet through you if you don't shaper or smoothen or temper. Was it temper? No, what's it called when you do that thing? Is it temper? I forgot. Or tape the edges of something correctly. So let's see what they say here in this article. In February, an anonymous Artwood family posted a listing for an executive personal assistant on New York Foundation at Art's website. The listing saw someone who would make life easier for the couple in every way possible. This meant picking up clothes for the high-end stores, managing all medical need requests, and helping rooftop garden maintenance and in-studio cats, and learning complicated sounding closet and dog systems. It went viral, and the New York Times covered it in the paper's summation. The ad combined a tone so blithe with detailed lists of tasks. It was so unreasonable. I didn't find that post unreasonable. It was a listing that went viral. I just thought in general it just sounded like what an assistant actually does. But I think when you write down what an assistant's obligations are, tasks, and what they're required to do, it can sound a bit nuts. It kind of can sound bordering on the side of slavery. But it is a pretty prestigious job. You do get to be in some interesting spaces. You meet some interesting people. Sometimes you can make a lot of money. So I didn't really have that much of an issue with the listing personally. But it was a bit of a bummer when I found out when it was leaked that it was Tom Sachs. Anyway, Tom Sachs 56 has long been represented by Seprin and Westwater. I hate when they do this in these cool articles. It's sort of like they're trying to get him dropped from his representation or something. Why mention that? Doesn't matter. The Sotheby's Gallery is also home to Julian Snowball and Bruce Newman, obviously two legends in the art world. He's best known for installations made of consumer products. In recent years, much of his works has been related to space travel, like a life-size replica of the Apollo 11 lunar model made of steel and plywood. His sculptures tend to show the way that we've been assembled and duct tape and screws and handwritten notes. These days, his pieces go for more than $300. At his opening in Aquavilla in October, the line to get in wrapped around the 79th Street. For his most recent release of the Nike Craft General Purpose shoe, the company took Kyle the New York Times, and there have been other houses of small furniture line and NFTs. NFTs, obviously, you can go away. The big bit. But he also become famous for the unique way of which he has for 3 decades run his Chinatown studio with an extension of his art practice, complete with the fastidiously detailed systems. In 2010, he released a film called 10 Bullets, which I think is awesome. I think anybody that's into design, that's into design in any way, shape, or form, and wants to, have a little bit of refresher on what a kind of a good practice looks like, and a really effective way to kind of look at how you approach your work, regardless of what field or medium you work in. I think you could take a lot of notes and inspiration from 10 Bullets. I think it's really, really well done, in my opinion, which was presented in both Employee Handbook and Artwork. Filmmaker Van Neistat, who's Katie Neistat's brother, is one of the former studio members. In the film, Sachs describes the rules that govern his studio. Everyone must place all the items parallel or a 90-degree angle. They walk quietly as if in a monastery. Employees have to maintain a healthy diet and exercise regime, avoid personal inventiveness, and respond to commands with the words "I understand" or "I don't understand." There's even a system for when the system isn't followed. Employees have to sacrifice money to the Leatherface, a piggy bank based on the villain in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Personally, all this stuff I thought was all done tongue-in-cheek, but this article is basically saying it was real. It was real rap. I always thought it was tongue-in-cheek, kind of take the piss a little bit, being very serious, and also kind of being jokey, kind of taking the piss out of itself. But hey, the space where this all plays out feels charming. A little Wes Anderson. Employees wear matching utility coats, and the plywood shelves are lined with Sachs pinched ceramics, and everyone is conspicuously attractive. If this sounds like a cult, well, that was kind of the point. Employees have been known to work out of the program called Space Camp 3 times a week at 7 a.m., wearing uniforms printed with their first initial, last name, and serial numbers. Sachs assigned them. We'd go out jogging in Soho, and people would take pictures of us. It's not like they knew Tom was; they just thought they were a regular cult. Says a former studio assistant. Some of them got their serial numbers tattooed on their bodies. Okay, that's a bit weird. It's a bit crystallerish. Plus, Sachs called it a cult constantly. This place is a cult, and I mean that in the scariest, most Manson family way, he said in a GQ interview. He talked about his temper too. In The Paradox of Bullets, a follow-up video of 10 bullets, he illustrates another motto: the virtues of a freak out. By throwing a typewriter through a wall, it flies into a room where a woman's calmly eating noodles, it hits her. But it could be actual cult, right? Or else it would Tom say it. Sasha said that studio culture is created his greatest work of art, but based on interviews with more than a dozen former employees, many of whom knew that they were signing up for a neutral work environment, the experience of the studio could be characterized by destabilizing and scary. Yo, that's the peak of modern living, isn't it? Living in a Western world where you think working in a flipping art studio where you can quit at any time is scary. Destabilizing. Working for somebody that has standards, somebody that kind of is a bit of a tyrant, somebody that demands the best at all times can be scary and destabilizing. Like, God almighty, we're so weak. Sachs declined to be interviewed for the story. Of course he did. And in a statement to the New York Times, a spokesperson describes the place as a rigorous and exacting artist studio. Exactly, which it should be. I think I remember reading or learning that Eminem, when he records in the studio, he treats it like a job. He essentially goes there from 9 to 5, doesn't arrive any later, doesn't stay any later, and kind of bangs out what he needs to do in those hours, and then goes home and then comes back the next day. But you can imagine inside the studio itself, there's probably other things that he probably does. He doesn't let anybody in there that's not recording, no smoking, no eating, or whatever. It's a place of work, because that's what he does. He creates music, sells it and stuff, and tours the world, and that allows him to do other things. So essentially that is his work. You have to take it seriously. And you'd imagine as well, when you're designing, personally for me, if you're writing or designing stuff, you know, even your table, even your work surface needs to be somewhat clear so that your mind can be clear, so you can start work again. Like, you know, there's all these things that come into place in order to kind of make sure that you are able to put your best work out there, or to try to create your best work. It says rigorous and exacting art studio, that has fostered high standards and a fast-paced work environment to support the robust output. Not everyone, they concede, is a fit for the culture, but Tom Sachs Studio believes all employees should feel safe and secure in their workplace and is committed to upholding these values. Here's one of Sachs' former studio managers describing working for him. The person says, it's almost as if he goes out of his way to sow discomfort and pours it off as if he's a genius. It's like a ruse. So many people out here know that he's cruel, but the art world is tiny and no one gives a shit. All people are just scared, and he's very influential. People don't want to get on the bad side of him because they want to, you know, get favors and whatnot and be in his good graces. So that makes a lot more sense. You see a lot in, you know, in fashion as well. You see a lot in nightlife. There's a lot of cunts, a lot of proper all caps cunts, but people don't want to say anything about it because they don't want to, you know, get rid of their guest list spot. They don't want to get rid of their favors to go certain places, or their ability to get on some list, or to go places after hours, or to get certain heads up on certain things. All these things kind of play into it, or just the clout of knowing that person personally, that kind of plays into it as well. You see some of the people in the studio doing some bodyweight training, it looks like. A certain type of person loves the idea of all this carefully sorting screws all day as part of their kind of making of unified art making organism. There's a recent Reddit thread called "How Can I Work for Tom Sachs?" One response says, "Just show up at the front of the studio like Fight Club." Says a former studio assistant. "It was a really desirable place to be and privileged in some ways. Owen Zoic dropped out of NYU in 2021 to join the studio. He had been applying to work there every year since he was 15. Rated. It's really, really lovely to feel like you're part of something and working in a very tight-knit group. It can be a really fast-paced environment and achieve some really fantastical goals. Most of the foremost talking players we spoke to asked for anonymity. Many cited non-disclosure agreements, and others said they feared retaliation." Little Tom Sachs is going to come after you, and he's going to be running after you down the street in these little Mars yards, trying to kick you with his little legs. When you start working at Tom Sachs studio, you're given manuals. They're substantially more detailed than 10 bullets in one. After the suggestion of how to properly approach Tom Sachs and his lunch, there's advice: avoid things that make Tom mad, which begins with metered verse. Tom will sometimes scream, sometimes brood. Through dire life may seem, happiness lies in reading Tom's moods. Tax spokesman says his manual was a joke. Recent player says he took it seriously. I don't mind this because he's basically giving you a heads up and saying to you, I'm a cunt. He's doing it in poetry form, but he is telling you, he's letting you know, hey, I'm a piece of shit. That's what he's letting you know. And I actually appreciate that. I think in many places that I've been at, the people have tried to pretend like they're cool, pretend like they're one of the boys or they're one of the crew, but they're actually tyrants. So I prefer it if you're a tyrant that you be up front and, you kill my family in front of me, as opposed to bring me into your household and make it seem like it's sweet and then you kill them all in their sleep. Please do it when I'm awake. It's impossible to read these moods on all time or to follow any of his exacting systems precisely, says former employees, a mix of studio assistants, managers and specialists, all of whom worked for Sash at various points of his past 15 years. And when someone inevitably messed up, if for instance they put a good light bulb in the bad light bulb drawer, the consequences were often far worse than giving a $2 to Leatherface. Multiple studio members recall Sash calling them autistic or retarded or bitch and other names. If you put the good light bulbs in the bad light bulb drawer, you got called redacted, autistic or a bitch. That is a little bit extreme, right? Okay. Anyway, Sachs Studio denies this, saying that such behaviors is not in line with the values of the studio. He also denied almost all the allegations leveled at him in this story. Of course, deny. That's the first rule of journalism debunking. Basically, if a light bulb went out in the middle of the night and you didn't change it, it's second. You got in, you were getting your ass biblically reamed out, says a third former studio assistant. According to several former studio assistants, you were at risk of having things thrown, if not at you, then in the direction of where you were working. To be fair, that's something that's not on. If anyone throws something at me at work, I don't care where I'm working, we have to throw hands. I mean, step outside, or I'm going to throw something back, which is okay. If you work somewhere and your manager's had to throw something at you, but you can also throw something back at them, I think that's a fair exchange. Just don't fire me because I threw something back at you. That's not fair. Do you know what I mean? I know it's your company and stuff, but let's be fair. If you can throw a stapler at me, I can throw this chair back at you. Like, let's go tete-a-tete. I saw him throw a sheet of steel across the room. How do you throw a sheet of steel at someone? Jesus Christ. Because someone had left it in the wrong place and it almost hit a tank of welding gas. Oh, it could have blew up. Yeah, imagine that. And then somebody comes in with their weed, man, and the whole place blows up. That would be hilarious, says a former fabricator. And when I went out to the studio manager to say, hey, he threw something towards me, her response was, well, at least he didn't throw it at you. He used to throw stuff at people. Oh, God, says another former studio assistant. He threw wood across the floor. One time he ripped the alarm system off the wall and threw it and threw the clipboard, a lot of clipboards and a ladder. This sounds like Gordon Ramsay in an art studio, to be fair. There were so many rules to keep track of, and they came from all over the place. The manual, the manager, Sachs himself. It was easy to get tripped up. Make Sachs dog's his first thrice daily meal: rabbit, sweet potato, and junior spinach, cranberry powder, and aloe vera juice and coconut oil. You have to make his dog that meal. Hold on, you have to make Tom Sachs' dog his thrice daily meal of rabbit, sweet potato, junior spinach, cranberry powder, aloe vera juice, and coconut oil. This doggy's better than me. Fucking hell. Bring Sachs snacks like Iberico ham if he's signing artwork. All his pens must be new and not new. The ink should already be flowing. You have to uncap his pens and let the ink flow a little bit, like you're stubbing out a crink pen or something. Oh my God. Group lunches are to be prepared by a food system manager, and forks to be dropped in the unison at the end of the meal. Once I was on the phone arranging Tom and Sarah's travel, says the former studio manager. They mainly fly first class, and if their seats doesn't go full bed, don't bother coming back in. This was repeated to me. I'm not gonna lie, Tom Sachs sounds like a fucking legend. I'm not gonna lie, he sounds like a fucking legend. you had to book seats for him that went full bed. If they didn't go full bed, so if they went like a, they just kind of petered back a little bit, but not all the way, then you were gonna get fired. If you booked them a first class seat that didn't have like a champagne button, you get fired. Oh my god! While she was on the phone, the door buzzed and she thoughtlessly let the person in. This was a problem, she says, because staff weren't supposed to let unidentified guests enter. I got back upstairs and Tom sprang at me. He was inches from my face. I could feel the heat from his body. He screams, "Why didn't you answer the door? What's wrong with you?" Many workers grew desperate to please, doing their best to find him italicized apples. What? Italicized apples, which several former employees say were his description of Fuji apples that were slanted. Oh my god. Those who succeeded were occasionally rewarded. Sloppy toppy? According to multiple studio members, Sachs dispensed birthday gifts and different values to demonstrate one standing. The first gift is always a knife, and after it is based off your value, says a former studio assistant. If you were favored, you could get Prada shoes. If you are not, you might get re-gifted something from a free pile. Oh, he sounds like a legend. Around people he deemed important, several former members say he sometimes made a point to act more reserved. But in restful settings like gallery installations, he let his guard down. According to some who worked with him in his institution, she saw him yell at studio members, and his workers are just like, "Yes, chef, you are the whole." You see this hollow look in some of their eyes. You're like, "This is for art." Yeah, I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but you can read it if you want to check out yourself. Here, it's called what's it called? Tom Sachs Promised a Fun Cult. Personally, for me, I'm a big fan of his and his art and stuff. So clearly, I'm a little bit, I'm a little bit somewhat conflicted in this. But overall, I don't think it's that big of an issue. I think I've worked in worse sounding places. I just think for whatever reason, maybe in the art world, there is this idea that it's this fun, magical place when it clearly isn't. And I guess he runs a really tight ship. That's basically the fact of the matter. He clearly runs a really tight ship. He has very exacting standards. But one thing I have to give him credit for, and I say this again because I meet a lot of cunts that pretend they're nice people, at least he's upfront. At least he lets it be known very clearly. Like, even, maybe because I'm just reading it from the outside in, I was just looking at it from an art practice side of things. I didn't really kind of look deeply into it. I never even associated it with a cult. But now they're saying what they're saying. And if you look at the pictures and how he tries to go on, it kind of is a bit like a cult. But at least he's very clear about what you're getting into. There is no kind of surprises. You can just judge from the videos, from how they conduct themselves on social media, from just the interviews that he gives and whatnot, from the people that work there in general, how they act on social. You can kind of get an idea of what the kind of place is like and what he's like as a person. So there really should be no surprises when you do enter the house or the studio Tom Sachs. Personally, for me, I don't think it should be that much of a surprise. But I just think we live in a world where people, are just, they don't know what high standards look like, especially in their own work. They might be procrastinators and whatnot. They might just, not have the most highest or exacting standards when it comes to their art. They might just see it as a creative endeavor and not something that you can kind of judge as quote unquote work. So when you work for somebody that clearly does treat it like work, tries to run a semi-factory cult type of thing, it is maybe hard to get your head wrapped around it, but I don't think it's that big of a deal personally for me. But hey, what do I know? Hey, what do I know? So moving on from that one. Let's talk about this. So we got this interview courtesy of HYPEBEAST featuring the one and only Peggy Goo, my favorite DJ of all time. And I thought it was somewhat interesting in the fact that it just, for me, cemented my impression that I think, as much as it is fun to hate on the lady, I also think it's quite fun to be her number one defender now. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pivot and I'm going to be the defender of Fred again. And I'm going to be the defender of Peggy Goo. Two people at the flipping apex, right? At the top of flipping Mount Kilimanjaro when it comes to flipping DJing. Incredibly privileged. They probably wouldn't spit on me if I was on fire. They probably would step over me if I fell over in the queue somewhere. Like, probably don't give any fucks about me whatsoever. But I think think the hate towards both of them is a little bit exaggerated, a little bit over the top, especially when it comes to Peggy, because I think as fun as her life may be, she looks amazing in this picture here, courtesy of HYPEBEAST, dressed in this amazing fur number that probably is real fur, designer glasses, great facials, tattoos and cool jewelry and all that malarkey, right? All this is amazing. But I also think being Peggy Gou is a prison in its own self because of how famous and popular she is. It must be pretty crazy to be her, because it's not a normal life that normal DJs have. She's basically occupying this weird celebrity influencer, IG babe sort of like place. It's bizarre. But anyway, the interview itself is very bland and very boring. I'm not gonna lie, you don't really get much out of her. I don't know if this is because she's kind of guarded because of the hate and doesn't want to reveal too much about her story or because of her upbringing or inspiration, just her personality, because people dissect everything she says. I've done it in the past, I know, but maybe that's it. Or maybe she just doesn't have much to say. She might be legitimately dense and quite, you know, basic in one way, shape or form, or just have the personality of a cardboard box. I don't know, but it must be such a weird place to be in, because she's very clearly photogenic, clearly doesn't shy away from taking pictures. So when it comes to that, the kind of other thing that comes on the back end is people wanting to know more about you, interview you, find out what makes you tick and stuff. But she doesn't really have anything. There's not really much there to kind of pull from. I'll just read a few you know, of the interview here, courtesy of HYPEBEAST, of her being in Korea. The interview. How was the experience of DJing in Korea for the first time? She says, it was more than I expected. In order to resonate with the audience in Korea, I had to play music differently than what I would do in foreign countries. As I watched the audience reaction, I was excited thinking about how Korean house and techno are getting a lot bigger. I was also performing with my favorite artists, so I was feeling a lot of emotions. Doesn't this sound like a chat GBT question or something? This sounds very AI-ish, isn't it? It's lacking in depth, lacking in warmth or emotion, just very robotic. And again, maybe it is, maybe it's not, I don't know. Another question here. In terms of fashion, what do you want to show the audience at your live show? Bizarre, but hey, it's a DJ, but hey, she answers, I think my performance includes costumes. I want to deliver energy at the same time, so I wear a lot of different clothes, or different colored clothes. A lot of people think that my clothes are chosen by stylists, but I wear whatever I want. It all depends on the store, country, the timing, the festivals. I also choose the energy that I think that suits the city and the situation. It's like, huh? Come on, lady, give us something, brother. Give us something, sister. As the day goes on, my suitcase gets bigger and bigger, and it's hard. People who like techno sometimes only wear black, but I think you can wear colorful colors while playing techno. Okay. It's like, come on, girl, give us something, please. Another question here. The word colorful is something that is something of a defining term throughout your music and stage presence. Sometimes people ask me to define my style. Every time I say no, I'm pretty much wear my styles of I wear all styles of clothing. It's the same when you're making music. I draw from everything. I'm making K-house, indie, techno with my music and all kinds of genre elements. But yeah, an absolute wall of nothingness coming from Peggy Gou. And again, I don't know if it's because she purposely doesn't want to let anything out of the bag because people just dissect everything she says, or because she generally doesn't have much of a personality. But I think one of my reasons why I'm starting to warm to her is, number one, she doesn't seem to give a shit about the criticism, which I love. She just seems to kind of just keep on keeping on. And I also have never, ever seen this girl moan about playing the same track again and again and again every time she performs. And the track that I'm talking about is flipping Starry Night. I think I got a clip of it here, right, where she's performing it somewhere. Where is it? Maybe is it this? Maybe it's this one. Maybe it's this one. No, I think it's this one. It might be this. Is it this one or this one? Maybe it's this one. Yeah, this is the one. So she played recently. I think this is maybe at the place where she was at the interview. This says Peggy Gou live at UFO station in Seoul, and for the 1 millionth time, she's out here playing Starry Night in front of a crowd of people who are just standing looking at her. There's no real dancing. There's no real going crazy. They're just standing and staring at her as she's playing music as a DJ. It must be such a weird feeling to experience, where no one's dancing, no one's losing their heads and going crazy. They're just standing and looking at you like you're in a band or something. It's really bizarre. But I've never heard her complain once about the success of the tune and about the golden handcuffs it's basically given her. She loves it. She plays it. Every time she plays it, it's like the first time she did it, and she approaches it like a true professional, like a true musician. You know, turns up, does her job, collects her checks and keeps it moving. But let's hear the clip. Screaming but they're not dancing. It's such a weird sensation to see if you're not watching this. They're screaming but they're not dancing. They're literally all standing there with their hands in the air with their phones, no dancing. And she's acting like this is the first time, like she just made a tune. This is what I think about what Peggy is a pro. She's acting as if she just mixed and mastered the tune in her hotel room and is debuting it for the first time. I flipping love it. At least they're singing along though. Imagine singing along and not dancing. What kind of crowd is this? It's incredible. Imagine singing along and not dancing. This is incredible. Or maybe this is just soul life, innit? Maybe this is just how Koreans get down when it comes to house music. They're singing but they're not dancing. This is so bizarre. And she's playing it like it's the first time. She's being a complete pro, no messing around. And then the other video that I went to show you that really demonstrated why sometimes, you know, maybe being Peggy isn't what it's all cracked up to be. Look at this clip taken from Mykonos last year. People just literally standing behind her and in front of her. This is a bit of a dodgy setup anyway. I don't know what kind of setup this is. This probably be my nightmare of DJing place as a venue. It looks like the crowd are like around her, so kind of like a boiler room type of crowd where she's like in the middle and everyone's sort of like around. Usually the people behind you are kind of VIPs and stuff and they don't really act too fanny, so they can kind of make you chill, but everyone around there's a fan, so everywhere she turns there's people shining their phones in her face. But again, consummate pro, doesn't roll her eyes once, doesn't look annoyed once, and just goes with it, which you can definitely appreciate. But this doesn't look like fun to me. So for the people out there hating and saying, oh, she gets paid so much money from Nike and all this stuff, would you want this as a DJ career for you? Be honest. And would you also be able to perform and not be complaining online? Because you don't hear her complaining and, you know, moaning about flights and stuff. She just lives it, does her thing, keeps it moving. Look at the phones. Phones in the back. More phones. Phones everywhere. Look at the phones. There's an SLR. Look, absolute pro. She's walking around like it's the first time she's played the song. I can't get past how amazing this is. And I'm sure Record Box has like a play count option, I'm sure, in the list setting in the what view section or something. I'd love to see how many times her particular USB has played Starry Night. It must be in the hundreds of thousands. It must be. Anyway, you get the point. And then this video I thought was really hilarious because this is the only one I could find where she does look a little bit annoyed and doesn't really look like she wants to be there. And this is a clip taken from the channel called Lucadia, which basically focuses more on like the tech house type of scene. Loads of what you maybe call bro house or something. So loads of dudes, loads of Italians and whatnot, dancing around, twirling their fingers and whistling all the time. So if you don't like that kind of vibe, you won't like this. But she's performing at Circo Loco DC10 alongside Michael Bibi. I don't think they're going back to back. I think he just played before her and she's playing after him, sorry, which is funny because I don't think she's really a fan of the guy probably, but hey, maybe the feeling's mutual. But this is the only clip I can find where she doesn't look like she's really that pleased to be there, and it might just be more so to do with the crowd, and also all the hangers on behind in the booth of DC10. I'm not really too sure, but she doesn't look too happy to be there. But still, she, you know, turns on the game face, starts dancing and relaxes, but the first few bits you can see her not looking too happy. So this is a clip, let's play it now. You see her in the back there with her headphones trying to get the song going. Michael Bibi not really giving her much attention. Let's fast forward a little bit more. Effects going on there. Slight interaction with each other here. But still, just a whole bunch of lads in it. DC10, god damn. I would still like to go just for the experience, just to see what it's like in person. But God almighty, the amount of lads, the amount of arms in the air. You must come, when you come back from DC10, your arms are so sore from just having them in the air with your phone, recording every single bit. And where does all this footage end up? I don't even see it. Where does it end up? Does it end up on YouTube? Does it go on their flipping Instagram channels? Like, where does this stuff end up? I want to know. Where does this stuff go? But anyway, all these sea of arms, all these sea of dudes, maybe this is why she wasn't too pleased, because there was so many Caucasian people there. She didn't see enough of her own people. I'm not really too sure. Who knows? Absolutely rammed. Oh, there's some girls there. Okay, nice to see. So this is a good thing about Peggy. She does have a pretty decent following with the ladies. They do seem to like her quite often. I remember in the workplace I worked at beforehand, a couple of years ago, a lot of the girls there loved Peggy. They literally, you know, they didn't really go raving too often, but if she was playing in London, they'd always buy tickets to go and see her, and they get all dressed up and shit. So she's clearly got a really big fan base with the women's. Michael Bibi still not giving her much attention. They're still not talking. They're still not talking. Not talking again. Still not talking. Let's see. Fast forward a bit more. Still not talking. Nothing anymore there. 2 minutes in, still no interaction. Yeah, see? The only time I've seen it look a little bit down and glum. Maybe she's really tired from traveling. Okay, there we go. A little bit of interaction there. She smiled at him, talked to her friend. She pointed one at him, she looked away. She doesn't seem the most warm, does she? I still love her though. Peggy's my girl. I'm gonna protect you at all costs, my dear. The hate towards you is a little bit unwarranted. You do your job and you're professional, and I mean that's more than a lot of people in the scene. And even if you are a little bit of a CUNT, so what? There's many of them out there. Do you know what I mean? That many more that have kind of people that kind of rate and flipping, you know, lick their boots and fall over the floor for. If you are, well, so what? Do it. Okay, there you go. One more. The only interaction. One more. Let's see what happens here. I want to see where they switch. Is that where they switch? Let's see where they switch. Oh, there we go. Now is she happy? Rah, she spoke to him once the whole time they switched. Okay, they're speaking now. Okay. She doesn't seem too warm, does she? Peggy doesn't seem like the warmest person in the world, but hey, I still appreciate the lady. Okay, they're switching now. There's still loads of arms in the air. Not a lot of dancing. There we go. She started. She feels good. Okay. Anyway, that's Peggy Goo over there at Circo Loco, feeling good, feeling nice. Michael Bibi probably looking at her thinking, bloody hell, mate, you're a little bit cold, aren't you, babes? Come on, Han. What did you say? What do you call me, babes? I'm not your babes. You know, she probably didn't respond too well with that. But hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. The Peggy Defense Force is here. We're defending her at all costs. We're defending her at all flipping cost. Next on the list here, to quickly finish all this DJ stuff, I wanted to mention this clip also that I thought was quite hilarious because I saw some people in the comments complaining. So, Jackmaster was recently playing at another place in Italy. Italy seems to be a really booming place for these guys that are like tech house adjacent. They seem to be getting booked left, right, and center. And for whatever reason, there's like, it's not even like the main cities or what you deem to be the main cities, but it looks like, you know, tech house, techno-y, housey clubs exist all over Italy, like in far-flung places, which is pretty cool. So you get to touch the fans in every single place and not just big major markets, which is cool because I guess it keeps you booked and busy. But one thing I noticed, all these guys usually play the same old stuff. It's kind of like, you know, they're basically like the sons and daughters of Marco Carola, that type of minimal, you know, tech housey type of deep housey type of sound. But it's all really normal. It's all kind of the same. It all just sounds quite monotonous. It's all very lacking in groove, lacking in bounce, lacking in creativity, ingenuity, depth, range. It's just all really crappy and basic, in my opinion. At least this Jackmaster set, from what I heard, is a little bit interesting. Like, he even starts and intros it very interesting, more so than whatever you'd hear played on a Luca D channel. So this is a clip taken from Luca D's channel, Jackmaster DJ set at a place called Il Muretto Gesolo in Venice, Italy, on the 18th of February of this year, at a Pyramid Ibiza party. And I thought this is a pretty good set, and I think some of the things that he was doing on the mixer, in terms of cutting in and out of songs and adding effects and looping and just really being, you know, somewhat performative in his style of mixing on stage, was a little bit more refreshing than what you see the normal tech house DJs do, where they just mix and blend out of one track out of the other, and it just sounds like you're listening to a mix at home or something. At least he's trying to perform and give them a show, and I feel like the songs and the tunes and the rhythm is really bouncy, really groovy, and just, you know, I'd be skanking at this all day long, but for some reason people in the comments didn't like this. Let's play the clip anyway. It's giving DJ Harvey to me. Vibes, very eclectic, very expansive, very all white. So that's a good intro. So I fast forward a little bit here. That was a good intro, right? I thought this bit that was good. And here is his going crazy on the mixer. So people didn't like all this stuff for some reason. I don't know why in the comments, but I thought this was really good. Listen. Oh, for some reason, why is the video okay? It's for some reason it keeps buffering. So I want you to see what this looks like. So I'm gonna let it stop encoding, overloading, so it will stop buffering, and then you'll see what I'm looking at, because I think this is important to see how he's maneuvering on these said decks, because I think it looks pretty impressive in my opinion. Okay, now it stopped. So here it goes. Sick. I love shit like that. That's very rock star-ish. It kind of gives me a little bit of a Ricardo Villalobos feel, a little bit of a DJ Harvey feel, where you're actually performing and being somewhat, what do you think, somewhat tactile with your mixing style. Even someone like a Devious One is also a good example of it, where you're really kind of being, you're really giving the mixer a little bit of loving. Helena House does the same sort of thing, and I think it kind of adds to the overall performance, especially if you're performing gigs live and you're playing the same thing again and again. That's gonna give you a bit of a spark, and also make the show fun for the people that are coming to watch. But the comments weren't agreeing. If we just scroll down here, someone in the comments says, what does it say here? That set looks all over the place, trying to be too fancy with effects and just seems off his head. The part where he's playing Ricardo Villalobos as Dexter looks like it brought the vibe right down. So I guess some people don't actually like the whole standing there and just blending one song into the other and being kind of boring. They don't actually want it to be funky and a bit off kilter. Sometimes when you're mixing with vinyl, sometimes you have these moments where you don't really beat match it properly. It kind of falls out of sync and stuff. You don't get the BPMs right. Just the flow of it is not good, whatever it may be, or just tune skips. But I think that kind of adds some level, some texture, and some flavor to the performance. It actually makes it quite interesting, because the DJ or performer has to kind of, improvise live on the moment and try and figure stuff out. But some reason, some people don't like it. Another person here says, this set is so whack, just trying to be cool with the effects and music cuts just don't sound right. I don't know. If that's me and I'm in the zone and I'm off my head, I think that sounds absolutely perfect to me. But hey, maybe I'm in the minority. Let's play a little bit more of this. That's good. Come on. Nah, people are hating, man. People are hating. Jackmaster's flipping hard. I'm sorry. Maybe because I'm used to this sort of style of playing from, being in the UK or the British Isles and whatnot. I know he's Scottish, but still, this is how people play here. It's multi-genre. You're flipping tracks in and out. You're changing channel. Just spinning back, adding effects. You're adding to it, because usually everyone's, for the most part, a lot of people out there DJ, in their spare time at home, and some people are just music aficionados. So a lot of people are listening to the same songs. They got the songs on their on their MP3. They listen to them while they're at work and whatnot. They know what they sound like. But sometimes if you kind of play them in different interesting ways, it actually adds to the performance. It gives those songs and those tunes that we all know and love a little bit more, a little bit more oomph. I don't think that's a bad thing, but for some reason people just want to see a boring performance. So I guess that maybe explains why everyone kind of plays the same, because that's what the crowd kind of wants, if judging by the comments is to be true. But yeah, big up Jackmaster regardless. I think he's smashing it. It's good to see him back out there, mixing and doing what he does best, especially after, all the past controversies and whatnot. He's kind of got that behind him, which is nice to see. And he's definitely one of my favorite, I would say, of the kind of quote unquote commercial type people, the ones that are really, really big. I think he's definitely one of the few that's kind of still at the top level. Even someone like a Seth Truxler, who I'm a big fan of, I think he's kind of dropped off a little bit and isn't as good as he once was. Jamie Jones is basically the same thing. I think, personally he's kind of lost a bit of the spark or the hunger or the love he maybe once had, which is understandable because those guys, you know, were really going crazy at their peak. I mean, performing all the time, a million dates, it can maybe kind of, you know, run you down. But I feel like Jackmaster, maybe that, you know, that time out of the scene for a bit kind of gave him time to recharge and get back on these ones and twos. But he's sounding better than he has been before. So great to see him out there again performing and doing what he does best, because he's definitely one of the more better ones out there in the scene. That has to be said. And then I wanted to mention this, which I thought was pretty funny considering what's happening in, you know, in the economy in general. But this article, courtesy of Billboard, is absolutely hilarious. This says here, Spotify expands access to a controversial discovery mode program. Artists can now opt in through the Spotify for Artists tour, the platform announced during a Stream On event. Now hear this out. This is a new feature that Spotify are doing to basically give artists an opportunity to quote unquote make more money or to be seen. Just hear this out. This is absolutely insane. Spotify officially announced that it has expanded access to a discovery mode, a contentious program that gives artists the chance to gain more algorithmic exposure on the platform through Spotify radio and autoplay, in exchange for a lower royalty rate. The company made the announcement during its Stream On event on Wednesday, the 8th of March, where Daniel Ek, the CEO, unveiled what was described as an entirely new update Spotify experience. So essentially, if you want your music to be seen by more people, maybe boosted up in the in the queue, in terms of what people listen to, in terms of, you know, habits and whatnot, if you're a similar type of artist, or maybe featured on the discovery page more prominently, you can take a lower rate. The funny thing is, the rate already is super crap anyway. I think I remember reading somewhere where I think Spotify's rate is somewhere like in the cents. So like you have to get, you know, over 200 plays or something, or streams on a song, in order to earn like $0.50 or something, right, or 50 cents, which is absolutely insane. So just imagine how much money, how many streams you need to have to make a decent living on music. It's not a lot. So number one, the payouts are terrible, and now they're saying to you, if you want to take less money of the money you're not even getting, and now that will maybe boost your ability to be seen by more people. So essentially what's basically happening is like music streaming is basically turning into what it's always people kind of feared it would be. It's just turned into an opportunity for artists to basically use music streaming as a sort of business card, so that people could then book you for things, festivals and live shows, and for you maybe to then sell merch at those shows. But there is no tangible ability unless you really pop and you become really successful. It sounds really difficult for you to just be a person who makes music, performs maybe once or twice a year, and just stays in your studio or in your room all day. You have to somehow be out there collaborating, doing brand deals, performing all the time, in order to kind of make it make sense. Because if you're already taking a cut on your streaming revenue to get more exposure, but then the exposure doesn't get you more gigs, how far else can you go? What else can you do in that regard? You've already taken a cut on the payout, the exposure isn't getting you anywhere, you're not collabing with people, you're not booking any live shows. It's really, really odd. If anything, what they should do is increasing the rates of payouts, really, across the board, so that then you would get more artists trying to do a thing on there. But because they don't, they go to different platforms like Bandcamp or whatnot, or they try to sell directly to their customers alone, and that sort of kind of changes and negates things. But it does make it hard to somehow be surviving and functioning there, especially if you're doing it independently. If you've got a major label behind you, maybe it makes it easier because you have money up front that they obviously going to have to repay, but still allows you to maybe take more chances. But damn, man, this is horrible. It says here, artists or their teams can now easily enter tracks into discovery mode through the Spotify for Artists tool, as long as their distributors are participating in the program. While labels can continue to access discovery mode through our team, I'm excited that discovery mode is now available directly through Spotify for Artists today, says Joe Hadley, the streamer's global head of artist partnership and audience, said on Wednesday. Now thousands of independently distributed artists and labels have access to discovery mode. That maybe is the only benefit to this era, that if you're an artist, you can literally start up and kind of upload your music onto all the major digital streaming platforms, DSPs, with a click of a button. It's not, you don't actually need a label for it. I'm sure there are YouTube videos that exist there to kind of, guide you through the process of uploading your stuff onto DSPs, uploading your stuff onto TuneCore to get paid and whatnot. I'm sure those things exist, but the payouts are so bad. I think if Spotify is like 50 cents, I remember reading somewhere like Apple pays $1 per 180 128 streams, which is a crazy low amount, but at least it gives you some idea of what you need to do to kind of making music make sense financially, which I think is also horrible because it just puts too much of a burden and a weight on the art you're doing. I think sometimes the best art can come from a sense of poverty, but also can come from a sense of just wanting to express yourself. But when you have this idea that you have to make the rent, or you have to pay your car note, or you don't have enough money you need to pay for your studio time next week, it kind of puts too much pressure on the music, which sometimes can affect the quality of your output in the end of it, your creativity, your process, your attitude toward things. It can't be the best, in my opinion. Managers who are eager to get their artist music in front of many people as possible has been enthusiastic about discovery mode. Of course, they're the ones that you pay Billboard, telling Billboard this is a brilliant tool that can yield incredible results. For example, one at the other end of the spectrum, music industry trade organizers and members of Congress alike have denounced the program as a new digital form of payola. Of course, very true. That will eventually lead to an overall decrease of the amount of royalties flowing from Spotify to labels and artists. Several members of the Congress also questioned Spotify about whether discovery mode meets the guidelines set forth in the Federal Trade Commission, which notes that disclosure of paid content should be clear and conspicuous. Spotify announcements about the discovery mode expansion should not come as a surprise to much of the music industry. For several months, it's been quietly emailing artists to tell them that they can use the program through Spotify for artists. We've been in testing mode, but the results speak for themselves. Hadley told the Stream On audience, on average, we've seen users save discovery mode songs 50% more often and add them to playlists 44% more and follow the artist 37% more. And that's just what they've seen in the song's first month of discovery mode use. So clearly there's an increase in it. Of course, that makes more sense because they're trying to push it, so they're going to push it at the back end to make it more worthwhile, but over time it will probably plateau. Streaming services first announced that it was testing a discovery mode towards the end of 2020. In a blog post at the time, Spotify said it developed the program in response to artists telling us that they want more opportunities to connect with their new listeners. Yeah, because everyone knows playlists are the most important thing, so if you can get your stuff seen in front of people on radio and whatnot, most likely you're going to be able to get on the playlist. If you get on the playlist and people share it, you have the ability to kind of run up the numbers, and then slowly but surely you can make money. So it does make sense why artists would like it, but overall it would be better to just increase the payouts, in my opinion. Discovery mode provides artists and labels a chance to identify music that is a priority for them, and our system will add the signal to the algorithm that determines the personalized listening sessions. To ensure the tool is accessible to artists at any stage of their careers, it won't require any upfront budget, says Spotify in the post. Instead, labels or rights holders agree to be paid promotional recording royalties rate for the stream in a personalized listening sessions will provide the service. Last year, managers told Billboard that royalties that they received on plays for discovery mode were 30% less than the royalties that they received from elsewhere on Spotify. Oof. For me, I don't like it. I think in general, they just need to increase the payouts to artists overall and stop doing all this hullabalooza, and just give the artists what they deserve money-wise so that they can make good and amazing art going forward. But, the world we live in at the moment, people are happy and okay with these flipping crappy payouts, so they continue to do so because they can get away with it. And unfortunately, it is unfortunate like that. Anyways, that has been the HYPEBEAST Show, episode number 655. This is episode number 655 of the HYPEBEAST Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If it's your first time checking out what I do, you know what to do. Smash the like button down below. That'd be greatly appreciated. Also, subscribe to the channel if you want. You can also share this. That'd be greatly appreciated also. And also, all my links regarding myself, social media, contacts, and whatnot can be found in the description below. If you want to get in touch with me, that'd be greatly appreciated also. Say hi and whatnot. I'm always here with a friendly face and a nice emoji and a double tap, so feel free to do so. And if you're listening to this via the audio podcast, you'll hear my tune of the day coming in right underneath my voice. If you're watching via the video portion, you will not hear any tune of the day. It'll just fade out to black. But I do thank you anyway for joining me and hanging out. It's been an absolute blast, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Take care. Be safe, everybody. Thanks for checking me out. Peace.